It is Saturday, the 23rd of February, 8 days to the March 4th general election, and politicians enter the home stretch in their campaigns to see if they will make it to the polls. And the message from within the country and the diaspora is clear. Kenya must have a free, fair, credible, and above all, peaceful election. Hope is right that even as the election results will be announced, Kenya and indeed Kenyans will maintain the peace that they have been known for decades. One that was scarred by the 2007 post-election violence, and one that must now be reclaimed. This is Saturday Night Live, and these are the highlights. Horror on the road, 17 dead in 2 accidents at the coast.
Ule mtu ametendawili ile matusi ambaye amewekea juu yangu na hata juu ya Kalonzo. Unajua hata nyinyi.
Na watu wengine ambao wanatoa vitisho kwa wakaji wengine ati kutakuwa na fujo ili watu wahame waende nyumbani. Nataka kuambia nyinyi hakuna kitu kitafanyika.
8 days to go, parties step up vote hunting missions. A new mobile game preaching peace ahead of the polls. And Gor Mahia beat Tusker to lift the DSTV Cup. Many thanks for joining us. We begin tonight on a sad note, and 17 people died on the spot and several others were injured in 2 road accidents which occurred in the Voi and Kilifi areas of the coast region at dawn. In Voi, 12 died on the spot in a head-on collision between a lorry and a bus which was traveling from Mombasa to Nairobi at 3:30 a.m. And in Kilifi, 5 people lost their lives in a head-on collision between a matatu and a tourist van at sunrise. KTN's Ferdinand Omondi begins tonight's bulletin with that story.
Mangled wreckage of what was a public transport vehicle after colliding with a tour van at the Makongeni area of Ipingo along the Mombasa-Malindi road. The driver is said to have been speeding prior to the accident.
Shida ilikuja kutoka Mavweni, kawa imejaa vizuri. Sasa ikawa driver anapeleka speed sana, lakini tukamlalamikia kwa basi hiyo speed usiende zaidi ya 80. Lakini tulipopita wale askari pale Takaungu, basi driver ndio akabandika kubandika.
The survivor claims that the driver failed to heed calls by passengers for him to slow down before they heard a loud bang.
Asa kwa mimi dirisha langu huku pande manake ilikuwa nimekaa mwisho. Ili dirisha huku ilikuwa halifungiki vizuri. Sasa akawa nimehamisha kichwa ili ile baridi sinipige. Ndio hata sijui ilikuwaje naona nimerushwa kabisa hata siwezi.
4 occupants of the matatu died on the spot while the driver of the van was pronounced dead on arrival at the Kilifi District Hospital. Hospital officials said they attended to 16 casualties of the accident. Police have voiced concerns over what they call careless driving, noting that this accident occurred in an open area where it could easily have been avoided. Only a few hours earlier, 12 more people perished in another road accident in Voi when a bus headed to Mombasa from Nairobi collided with a lorry. Survivors from the bus have also blamed the driver for the accident, accusing him of careless driving. 12 casualties were rushed to the Voi District Hospital. Police have launched investigations into the cause of the collision. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Mombasa.
Okay. So, all right, with just over a week to the elections, Kenya continues to receive messages of goodwill towards the forthcoming polls from various world leaders. Today, it was the turn of the newly appointed U.S. Secretary of State, John Kerry, and the chairman of the African Union panel of eminent African personalities, Kofi Annan. Will Nyabo has details of what the leaders had to say. Will in a nutshell, what did they have to say?
Basically, leaders just coming out and asking Kenya to ensure that we have peaceful elections, to strive towards peaceful elections. Of course, they want to see credible elections, free and fair elections, but mostly just peaceful elections.
Right.
Okay, so now in a tweet today, John Kerry confirmed that he had spoken to President Mwai Kibaki on phone, taking the opportunity to urge Kenyans to come together and ensure that the elections were free, fair, credible and devoid of violence. Shortly afterwards, Kofi Annan would add his voice to those of leaders calling for peaceful elections in Kenya come March 4th. In a statement, Annan drew attention to recent violent events and rising tensions in the run-up to the elections, terming this deeply worrying. He reminded Kenyans how far the country had come and the strides that it had made, and warned that Kenya could not risk a return to the brink where it tottered in 2007. Now, in the face of what he refers to as the most ambitious elections held in Kenya at a critical point in Kenya's history, Annan advised that if election disputes arose, appropriate judicial mechanisms should be used to resolve them. In his parting shot, Annan added that the elections must be peaceful, free and fair. They must be conducted in accordance with the rule of law. They must also be carried out with integrity and must reflect the will of the people. Only then will national unity, stability and cohesion be safeguarded. And this is really the message that these leaders are sending to Kenyans. Back to you, Linda.
Well, Krista, thank you very much. Of course, with a look at what world leaders had to say, even as Kenya heads towards the general election. And the message is clear. This is an election that has to be peaceful, free and fair. Let's turn our attention on politics, and the CORD coalition is confident of a first-round win in the presidential election. The sentiments were expressed in Nakuru, a county where the recent opinion polls showed that Jubilee's Uhuru Kenyatta is way ahead of Raila. However, with 697,000 voters to woo in a county that was dominated by PNU in the 2007 elections, CORD is hoping to turn this round. Coalition leader Raila Odinga says he is sure Kenyans will vote for them overwhelmingly. Our senior reporter Aaron Cheng is in Nakuru and now reports.
After a round of campaigns in the Marigat and Baringo areas, CORD principals Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka and Moses Wetangula made their way to a rapturous reception at the Afraha Stadium in Nakuru County. The CORD brigade clearly not leaving anything to chance in their quest to harness the Rift Valley votes.
Dakika 90 minutes. Hakuna extra time. There will be a runoff. There will be hakuna kipindi ya pili.
Raila na Kalonzo na Wetangula tumetangaza tayari kwamba mwaka wa makadirio ya fedha ndio unaanza June. Hakuna mzazi Kenya hii ambaye atamuona mtoto akifukuzwa nyumbani kwa sababu ya kwamba hajalipa karo.
Kazi itaanza ya kujenga Kenya, ya kutekeleza katiba, ya kumupa nyinyi fahari ya kuwa wa Kenya.
Nakuru County, which is the headquarters of the Rift Valley, has close to 600,000 registered voters, and the CORD team is keen to get a share of this. It is also one of the counties that was worst hit by the 2007 post-election violence. Raila, Kalonzo and Wetangula were accompanied by several CORD leaders.
Siku zimebaki chache. Na sasa nyinyi ndio askari wa ODM. Lazima mtoke, mufanye campaign.
I am therefore telling the Electoral Commission, the Director of Intelligence, or any other commission, this is a coalition government. They cannot brief President Kibaki without Raila Amolo Odinga.
After painting Nakuru orange and concluding their campaigns here in the Rift Valley, the CORD coalition now moves to Coast Province, where they're expected to hold a campaign rally at the Tononoka grounds tomorrow. Aaron Ochen, KTN, Afraha Stadium, Nakuru County.
Right, the Jubilee coalition leading lights Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto have urged their supporters across the country to come out in large numbers on March 4th and ensure that the alliance wins in the first round. Uhuru and Ruto were in Kajiado County, a region perceived to be a TNA stronghold, and with 304,517 votes up for grabs in an area that relies on tourism and agriculture, they promised to focus on the two sectors, issuing soft loans in its strategy to create more job opportunities for men and the youth. Patrick Amimo reports.
Jubilee Coalition's presidential candidate Uhuru Kenyatta and running mate William Ruto galvanized support for the alliance in Kajiado and Narok counties with just over a week to the polls. It was here that Uhuru and Ruto said they were smelling a first-round victory over their main rival, the Code Alliance.
Tarehe 4 mwezi wa 3, mujitokeze mapema, tupige kura kwa amani. Saa 7 ya mchana, huyu mjamaa ameanza kupanga virago akielekea nyumbani. Na tunataka tumalize kazi hii round one.
Though apparently warming up to a new poll that has put Uhuru ahead of Raila in a neck-to-neck contest, they cautioned against relying on messages from opinion pollsters.
Wenzetu wa Narok, mtusaidie ule mjamaa mwingine wa vitendawili naye pia tumpeleke retire pamoja na mzee Kibaki.
Ruto said if elected, a Jubilee government will boost tourism in the Masai Mara Game Reserve and ensure locals benefit from the proceeds of the parks.
Tutaweka pesa ya kutosha kufanya marketing ya mambo ya utalii, tuhakikisha kwamba watalii wanakuja Kenya milioni 5 kila mwaka, tuhakikisha kwamba vijana wanapata kazi na tunapanua uchumi.
The alliance also would women and youth.
Sisi tutaweka hazina ingine maalum kiasi hiyo ya CDF. Kama CDF ni 80 million, tutaweka 80 million ingine kila constituency kila mwaka, pesa ya serikali kupatia vijana na kinamama mashinani ili wafanye biashara bila ya kulipisha interest, bila ya kuuliza security yeyote.
Internal Security Minister Kato Ole Metito said the country was headed to a peaceful election and that his ministry would deploy 99,000 security officers countrywide to man elections. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
On its part, the Amani coalition was in Trans Nzoia County, where presidential candidate Musalia Mudavadi has cautioned critics of the Luhya unity to watch out for a consolidated vote in the March 4th elections. This consolidated vote being sought includes the registered voters in that county, which in 2007 voted in PNU legislators, save for Mount Elgon, which voted in ODM. Mudavadi reckons they could get that vote and told the Kitale residents that Amani is in the presidential race to win. Masi Kandie reports.
At the residence of Justice Minister Eugene Wamalwa, the Amani coalition met local leaders and leaders from the New Fort Kenya in Trans Nzoia County. The coalition's flag bearer Musalia Mudavadi said that long gone were the days when other politicians could bank on a split Luhya vote. Mudavadi insists that the region has a consolidated vote this time round.
Mambo ya kusema kwamba tuvunje hawa jamaa ndio tufaidi, hiyo biashara imekwisha.
He downplayed claims being peddled by opponents that voting for him translated to a Jubilee vote as cheap propaganda, arguing that he was a serious presidential candidate with all intentions of winning the polls.
Hii mambo ya kujaribu kufikiri kwamba mtu fulani ama Mungu amekuteua wewe ndio utakuwa, ama imeandikwa ati wewe ndio utakuwa. Kama ingekuwa imeandikwa kwamba mtu fulani ndio atakuwa president na iwekwe kwa katiba, hatungeenda kwa kura.
The Deputy Premier challenged Code Alliance to desist from claiming that Mudavadi was out to spoil for Code in Western Province to offer Jubilee an early lead. The coalition also cautioned over the counter-accusations by the Jubilee and Code coalitions as being a recipe for chaos.
The basis ya kusema Amani ni spoiler, Amani coalition wanaharibia Uhuru, ni kwa sababu wanaharibia Raila, ni kwa sababu Raila amekuwa anaongoza kwenye opinion polls. Sasa waambie vile opinion polls zimegeuka sasa, hiyo propaganda imefanya nini? Imekwisha.
And the noise we are hearing now from God is actually taking the same path that was taken in 2007. Even for me, what the Chief Justice did, whether he was wrong or not, I think it was wrong for him to come up with statements that can incite the country.
Mudavadi took the opportunity to endorse former Cabinet Minister Kipruto Arap Kira and former Kapingiri Member of Parliament Samuel Moroto, who are vying for Senator and MP positions in New Ford Kenya and Kano, which are part of the Amani coalition, respectively. With just 8 days to the general election and the recent opinion polls placing the Amani coalition at a popularity percentage of 5.2, the Amani coalition dismisses this. They say they're in this race, the presidential race, to win, taking the vote-hunting mission to Mombasa County tomorrow. Marcy Kandiye for KTN.
Elsewhere, the Restore and Build Kenya presidential candidate James Ole Kiapi and Eagle Alliance flag bearer Peter Kenneth campaigned in the ODM stronghold of Siaya County and Garissa respectively, with Kiapi promising the electorate that if elected president, he would address the issue of youth unemployment, terming it a national disaster. Details of these stories and more in our political wrap with Sophia Wanuna.
With only 8 days to the general election, the race to State House has seen the contestants traverse the country on a vote hunt. The Eagle Alliance presidential candidate Peter Kenneth was in Garissa today, where he received a warm welcome. Kenneth hit out at pollsters who have consistently ranked him in the bottom list.
Pahali utapiga debe, hiyo ndio kura ya maoni. Na mimi najua hizi kampuni za kura za maoni zinalipwa pesa. Na wanalipwa pesa ili wakuje na agenda fulani, ili kama hawa majamaa wakishindwa waseme kura ziliibi, lakini wewe mwenyewe ndiwe kura ya maoni.
And in the ODM stronghold of Siaya, RBK's James Ole Kiapi and his running mate Winnie Kaburu toured various towns where he said he would bring change if elected president.
Nimesema nikiingia pale I will declare youth unemployment a national disaster.
Both Kenneth and Kiapi urged their supporters to vote them in, saying the top contenders in the presidential race had failed in their previous capacities in government.
Msidanganywe, wabunge wamekuwa ministers, wakakuwa prime ministers, wakakuwa nini, bado wanatuambia wakienda pale wataenda kufanya. Mbona hawafanyi sasa?
Kama tunataka mabadiliko, ni lazima tusahau wale ambao wamekuwa pale kwa hii miaka yote. Manake wamekuwa pale, wamekuwa kwa serikali, wanasema wataleta mabadiliko na munajua hawataleta.
And in the Nairobi gubernatorial race, APK's Jim Nambaru campaigned in Mathare today, where he urged the electorate to vote for him as he would ensure Nairobi County flourishes.
Lengo letu ni kuinua uchumi, lakini tutapitia njia mingi, lakini ile njia moja sisi tunataka mufaidike ni ya kutengeneza masoko.
It is the last weekend of campaigns and most of the candidates are making the most of it. Sophia Wanuna, KTN.
Right, let's now focus on the implications of the upcoming elections on the entire country. And officials from the port of Mombasa have dismissed claims that the port is losing business to Dar es Salaam as the country prepares to go to the polls. The Kenya Ports Authority says it is receiving more business than Dar es Salaam and has put in place measures to ensure business is not disrupted in the coming weeks. And as Wilkie Sanyabwa now reports, landlocked neighbors who rely on the Mombasa port as a transit point need not to worry.
Apprehension over the outcome of the upcoming elections is now fueling fears that the port of Mombasa may be losing business to Dar es Salaam. However, the Kenya Ports Authority has moved to reassure the country that this is not the case.
Dar es Salaam or the Tanzania is the fifth transit user of the port of Mombasa. 2.8% of the volume of business we did last year is or was from the port, from Tanzania. There is no volume of business from Kenya that goes through the port of Dar es Salaam. From the numbers that we've just talked about and from the evidence tabled by the presence of this vessel here, that she is leaving behind traffic to be moved from this port to the other port or the sister port of Dar es Salaam is itself evidence enough that there is no way you could be leasing business if the business for the other port is being left behind to be collected by vessels from that particular port.
The KPA Managing Director says measures have been put in place to ensure the port's operations continue uninterrupted even during the election period.
The government has assured all and sundry that there will be peace and protection of properties and that there will be no interruptions in the course of the business. Because of this, we feel very strongly we are prepared and we are keen to do business as usual. The indicated volumes that we expect to come in are an assurance in itself that the Kenyans and the business people that do business with the Port of Mombasa have faith and trust in what has been given as an assurance.
The Mombasa or Northern Corridor route is popular among Ugandan traders because it is shorter at about 1,200 kilometers to Dar es Salaam's 1,800 kilometers. Approximately 90% of Uganda's imports and exports transit through Mombasa, while only 1% of Uganda's goods pass through the port of Dar. Uganda contributes 78% of the transit traffic at the port of Mombasa. In 2007, when Kenya went to the polls, Uganda's inflation rate shot to 7.8%, owing to the violence and the difficulty in transporting essential goods. Mombasa port officials are now putting in place measures to hold on to the business generated by the port during the elections.
Right, so as the election D-Day approaches and there is WhatsApp, a new game about stealing elections is out. The creators hope the game Election Thief will create a buzz, especially among the youth through social network and spread the message of peace as the country heads to the polls. However, the game is not the only tool being used to champion peace, and as KTN's Eric Njoka reports, Twitter and Facebook have also become key avenues to preach peace.
Gaming is not a huge industry in Kenya as it is in other developed countries. So a while ago, I was on my computer and then I came across this interesting game called the Election Thief, a game solely created by Kenyans with the notion of preaching peace during this election period. So let's see how the game works. Election Thief, a Kenyan Android game that involves chasing down, as the name implies, an election thief. The main character is Omu, a voter that goes to vote and catches a bad guy stealing ballot papers. In order to control Omu, the gamer has to catch the election thief by chasing him through a variety of entertaining game levels that go up to 75. The game, a first by a Kenyan startup, UO Games, or if you like, University of Games, that deals with game development for mobile, web and PC, has integrated social media, allowing the player to post scores and achievements on Facebook or even Twitter to challenge friends.
Each pop-up has a different message. Aside from the best time and level complete pop-up, there's one that has a specific message that you can either tweet or Facebook to your friends and make your friends aware not only about the game but about various things that affect us, especially during election periods or in politics, or what people say that we may not understand but in turn have an effect on someone else.
Yabadoo. Interestingly, the Election Thief's soundtrack is by Slumdog, an artist from Kibera who lost both his parents during the post-election violence.
No, 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 nataka peace.
The peace agenda in this election is now trendy on social media, with hashtag Chagua Peace, an initiative by the Kenya Red Cross Society, being one of the avenues used to preach peace. And perhaps the focus on peace is from lessons learned in the bungled 2007 election that left over 1,000 dead, hundreds of thousands displaced, and property worth millions destroyed. With only a few days to the election and a presidential race that is neck and neck, the peace message is inevitable and crucial to ensure Kenya never returns to these dark moments. Kenya's overall tech space has grown, but despite this gain, gaming has been left out. The gaming culture is there, but locally produced games have not really caught on. It's a very interesting game to play. However, it needs to be polished a little more because I think it's not game ready. But you cannot ignore the peace message it has. Eric Njoka, KTN, Nairobi.
Eric Njoka, I must say that's a very interesting game, but indeed we really cannot ignore that peace message that it has. Now let's move on. The senatorial contest in Nandi County is pitting father against son, with the ODM chairman Henry Kosgei contesting for the Nandi Senate against Stephen Sang of United Republican Party, backed by his son Alex Kigen Kosgei. The older Kosgei is under intense pressure given the generational change politics perpetuated in his backyard, making the ground hot politically. Samogina tells us more.
With the population of over 750,000 residents, Nandi County has 254,000 votes up for grabs. The county has 6 constituencies, namely Aldai, Mgwen, Mosop, Tinderet, and the newly created Chesumei and Nandi Hills constituencies. But the senatorial race here remains pivotal, pitting a father-son contest.
Kosgei amekuwa mbunge yangu for 35 years. Na kuna mahali ingine inaitwa Kapkoros. Lakini Kosgei shida yake moja, ako angalia watu, kuna watu wanabebwa na gunia huko upande wa Kapkoros, mtu akikonjeka. Sasa Kosgei alisahau hata kutengeneza manjia peke yake.
After 3 decades of leadership, political maestro Henry Kosgei is wading through a rough terrain in his own backyard, facing stiff opposition right from his household. Kosgei's son, Alex Kigen Kosgei, vying for the Mgwen parliamentary seat, has staged a mutiny against his father, instead backing Henry Kosgei's rival, Stephen Sang of URP.
Sawa na vile Alex anaweza sema mimi ni URP, na kwa hivyo mpigie ule mwenzangu wa URP upande wa Senate na mimi MP upande wa kwa URP. Hawezi kimbilia kusema ule ni baba yangu, sijui mtamsaidia. Hakuna kitu kama this business by the.
Sasa tunataka Kosgei aende nyumbani, kwa maana walikuwa na Moi, tuseme karibu Kenyatta, na alafu Moi, alafu tena huyu nani Kibaki. Sasa anataka nini tena? Wacha tuachie Jubilee. Young people, new generation aendelee.
Naunga kijana sana. Na lakini mzee hatuwezi kumfukuza. Tutaambia yeye aende apumzike nyumbani, kijana aendelee na kazi.
The junior Kosgei has rebelled against his father's bid, going against the family grain of supporting ODM party. Alex has picked ODM's fiercest rival in the region, URP, to springboard his political ambitions. URP enjoying a fanatical following in the region. Kosgei is faced with an awkward political dilemma of stemming the URP wave in his backyard and accordingly diffuse the generational change escad used to discredit his senatorial push.
Mzee Kosgei niliamua niende naweza kuwa seneta wetu kwa vile amekuwa amefanya kazi mzuri hapo mwanzoni na tunaamini anazidi kufanya.
Kosgei amejenga hii nchi yetu kutoka kitambo. Nandi amejenga mashule mingi, ameandika watoto wengi, hata iko na ujuzi ya uongozi. Hapa tunaendelea na yeye, lakini tosha kutuba yeye. Bado mimi naona tu aongoze pole pole.
It is checkmate for Kosgei in his 34-year checkered political career, a loyalist to Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Codes Pointman in the Nandi region. Kosgei has backing from her Aldai counterpart Sale Kosgei, both steadfast in the Orange Party to defend their re-election against the wave set off by the Jubilee Alliance.
Yenyewe atakuwa na kibarua kigumu sababu saizi hapa hivi dominant party ni URP. Anaweza kuwa na kibarua kigumu, lakini ajaribu tu, tutajaribu kumsaidia wengine.
Bado mimi naona tu aongoze pole pole. Saa kidogo anakuja kufundisha mtoto hii sasa kijana Jofugizi anakaa na yeye pekani hapa. Sasa mzee akienda pole pole anamwambia kijana kuja hapa sasa. Kazi ametosha wewe.
The writing is on the wall indeed. Welcome to the island of new politics, where the tide of generational change is sweeping across the county, sparking off a father-son rivalry just to underscore that generational contest whose umpire will be the March 4th elections where voters decide. Samogina, KTN, Nandi County.
Let's see how that goes on March 4th. That's where we end our coverage of political stories. And you want to keep it KTN, your election channel. As here at KTN, we stand for fair, balanced coverage. You're watching Saturday Night Live. Stay with us as just ahead. Families agonize the fate of their loved ones 4 days after ultimatum. Thank you so much for staying with KTN Saturday Night Live. Now, the fate of 5 Kenyans believed to be the hands of terror outfit Al-Shabaab hangs in the balance after a deadline to release militants in exchange for their lives passed. The militants based in Somalia claimed to have executed a KDF soldier last week, after which they gave a 72-hour deadline for release of their fighters in Kenya. And as Ferdinand Omondi reports, it is now emerging that the group has gone silent after the deadline passed.
On behalf of all Kenyan prisoners under the captivity of the Al-Shabaab.
It is 4 days since the deadline to release Al-Shabaab militants in Kenyan custody passed, and Andrew Mwangura, the link man who has been central to negotiations between the militants and the captives' families, is a worried man.
Makatala ya 72 hours yalisha juzi Jumatatu na hatujasikia kitu kutoka huko kwao ama jambo jipya kutoka huko kwao.
The last time Al-Shabaab spoke out was last Thursday to announce that they had executed a Kenyan soldier allegedly in their custody following the expiry of an initial 3-week deadline issued on January 22nd. They also threatened to kill 5 others in their custody if their demands were not met in a further 72 hours.
Shida ambayo tunaifanya kwa sasa hivi ni kutaka kurinkina watu. Tumepata watu kama wawili watatu, lakini mawasiliano yetu na wao ni mabaya, ni magumu kidogo. Sasa tutafuta mkalimani, yani mtu ambaye ataje kutranslate kuongea, kwa sababu wao ni watu hawezi kuongea Kizungu wala Kiswahili.
But any negotiations will be done without the government, which has maintained that it will not negotiate with terrorists. The families of the captives are, however, livid about that assertion.
Watu wanashikwa in the line of duty wakitumikia taifa la kwao. Kwa nini aende kutetewa? Wameshikwa na madawa kulevya, China si wapi, wanahukumu kunyonga, wakatoka watu wakaenda kwenda kuwatetea, wakaachiliwa wakarudi.
As you can see, we are here while serving the Kenyan public at Gerili.
A video released by the Al-Shabaab shows one Mule Yesi Edward, a captive, imploring government officials to put themselves in the shoes of their troubled families. Yesi is believed to be among the 5 Kenyans whose pictures were released by Al-Shabaab, who want their fighters in Kenya released, and paints a grim picture of their situation.
My life and the life of our fellow Kenyan prisoners depend on how you respond to this message. I am afraid that this may be the last message that you may hear from any of us in the near future.
It is a delicate situation, with the main emphasis from the families.
We have done what we could for our country, and now it is your turn to help us return us safely back to our homes.
Being that no word comes out from Kenya that may antagonize the captors, and that this physical and mental siege may finally end up in freedom for the captives. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Mombasa.
This is an interesting story. Painless male circumcision could become a reality in the near future if pilot studies on a new device being carried out are successful. The Prepex device that is already in use in Rwanda, one of the African countries with the lowest circumcision rates, is meant to boost voluntary medical male circumcision, which has emerged as an effective control measure in HIV and AIDS infection management. KTN's Western Region reporter Fred Omulo filed the following report from Kisumu, an area with low circumcision rates.
Over the last 5 years, global health organizations have released an avalanche of funds to promote circumcision as a means of reducing HIV infection rates across ravaged regions. Flowing concurrently has been efforts to increase efficiency in the medical procedure.
Devices are being considered to make it simpler and even faster. Some of those devices under consideration include the Shang ring that he has talked about, Alice clamp, and now the Prepex device, which is the focus of my talk.
Prepex is a simple plastic device designed to kill off the male foreskin painlessly while achieving circumcision over a period of 7 days. Clinical trials among 425 Kenyan men have begun in Kisumu, with conclusive results expected in coming weeks.
One of the things that really has enabled us as a country to move to have a focal person
a focal program that just looks at it. If there was no national AIDS and STD control program that is able to pull together all the partners and say, we need to do this, we need to do this, and these are the guidelines, then it wouldn't have worked.
The project that brings together the Nyanza Reproductive Health Society, the National AIDS and STI Program and 3 universities is a result of Kenya's successful implementation of voluntary circumcision, with almost 500,000 males undergoing the procedure since 2008. For KTN Prime, I am Fredo Mulo.
All right, a resurgence in coffee theft in central Kenya is worrying stakeholders as it is impacting negatively on the returns of farmers who have invested in this cash crop that remains one of Kenya's top foreign exchange earners. Though the theft peaked and subsided in 2012, it seems to have picked up again this year. KTN's Carol Derry reports on the menace that is dampening coffee farmers' spirits.
According to officials in the coffee sector, there is a resurgence of coffee theft that is causing untold misery to coffee farmers in central Kenya in the recent past. The farmers and cooperative societies have incurred heavy losses despite measures taken to improve productivity, as profits from coffee have tremendously improved compared to the past. Central Kenya Cooperatives Officer Stephen Mutugi Mwenje says more than 700 bags have been stolen this far.
This issue of having old people as their guards, people who need the guarding, other than them guarding the what, the coffee and the factories, should cease.
Previously, Kiambu County was the hardest hit.
Nyeri has lost 255 bags. Kirinyaga has lost 134 bags. Muranga is the one which has lost the most this time at 381 bags. And Kiambu, and I congratulate the governance of the Kiambu cooperatives after that other time that we were going around and sensitizing them, they have lost only 8 bags so far. And you remember last time, it is the one which had lost the most.
In 2011, when the wave of coffee theft was at its peak, most farmers were advised on how to curb this, advice that was reiterated by Mwenje.
We also agreed that they should install security systems, warnings, alarms, all right, that would be used to inform the surrounding population that something is happening, something unusual is happening in that factory.
Coffee is the backbone of this region's economy, and the re-emergence of the vice spells doom for the local residents. It is hoped that the government will invoke measures to put to a stop the menace. While putting measures to curb this theft that has stakeholders worried, farmers are encouraged to increase productivity through value addition, and this will in turn translate to good profit. Carol Derry for KTN in Nyeri.
Thank you so much for staying with us this far. We're taking a short break. I'll be back with the day's sports news. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's look at sports now. We begin with DSTV Cup, and Gor Mahia second choice goalkeeper Ivo Mapunda was once again the hero of the day, as his saves ensured Tusker did not defend the DSTV Super Cup after they won 5-4 on post-match penalties. Gor Mahia's Danny Serenkuma slaughtered in the first goal before Luke Ochieng scored for the Brewers. Moses Odhiambo saw his shot stopped by Tusker's goalkeeper George Opio, with Khalid Aucho slotting home to give Tusker the lead. Edwin Lavasa scored Gor's third kick.
Coming up against Ivo Mapunda in the third penalties. Rodipo sends his penalty overboard.
And it's all for Gor Mahia, but Jesse Were is sending Mapunda the wrong way.
And with a message as well. And Mapunda saves it! Gor Mahia will take it on sudden death penalties. But he didn't win the game in 90 minutes. He goes to congratulate the other coach on the other side. He looked like he was oozing confidence. And I think that logo edition of it. But it's the Supersport DSTV Super Cup, and your winner in 2013 is Gor Mahia, with the captain Jerry Onyango on the pitch. It's the one time that you see two goalkeepers celebrating having played in the same match and having helped themselves to win. One playing in the 90 minutes, the other one playing in the penalty.
The national karate calendar will be disrupted by the forthcoming general election, and in order for the players who are preparing for the World, Euro and Asia Championships in Scotland continue to remain in shape, they have organized peace tournaments to sensitize voters on peaceful coexistence as well as remain fit for the May Championships.
The Karate Kenya Open Championship has been cancelled due to the forthcoming general elections. The tournament was slated for March, but organizers feel hosting it then will not be in order with the current political temperatures. And with many other championships slated for the year, karatekas are busy shaping up, though their preparations have peace messages written all over it.
You don't have to fight each other. So some of the events like the Kenya Open tournament is on hold until after March 4.
It's our responsibility as part of the Kenyan society to fight for peace, to promote peace as a karate group, so that Kenyans can vote in peace, can live in peace, because that's what we need.
With the World Euro Championships in Scotland slated for May and the Africa Championships in South Africa just around the corner, there is very limited training time for the karatekas.
We have some tournaments in continents only, but I've always won, so I hope I have many trophies.
They have set their eyes on qualifying for the Olympics and have begun opening up the sport to the armed forces with an aim of encouraging more numbers, though they feel more women need to take up the sport. Karatekas from Japan are expecting to the country in September to hold training sessions for the Kenyan team as they try to bridge the gap between the two nations. Reporting for KTN Weekend Prime Sports, I'm Hassan Juma.
All right, Kenya Premier League has warned politicians against taking their campaigns to the league marches. Footballers have been warned to carry themselves with decorum during this electioneering period. With crowds becoming a favorite tool of campaign for politicians, the Kenya Premier League has come out strongly to warn any politicians from taking advantage of crowds in any of the 8 Kenya Premier League venues across the country. KPL has also issued a warning to fans who may opt to don campaign regalia. KPL has altered its fixtures in order to give footballers time to exercise their democratic right come the 4th of March. March the 1st will see a total of 4 matches being played, with the next matches on the 9th of March.
All the political aspirants are allowed to come to the stadium as spectators, to come and watch the game as any other fan will do. We are not associated with any political party or any individual. Ours is a football game, and if there's anything to do with politics, even FIFA rules do not allow that.
Kenya's cross-country team is currently in residential camp in Kigari, Embu, after reporting to residential training camp at the St. Mark's Teachers Training College. Already the camp is full, with all the 28 athletes together with 10 officials having reported in preparation for the 40th IAAF World Cross-Country Championships in Poland on March the 24th. Kenya cross-country teams have been camping in Embu since 1994 due to the conducive running conditions in Siakago, where most of the speed training is done to the slopes of Mount Kenya. The team will for the first time be under the watchful eyes of coach Sami Rono. The last time Kenya was in Poland, they swept all the medals on offer, and a repeat of the same is in the offing. No. All right, so this has been KTN Saturday Night Live. Many thanks for watching, for staying with us. This for Sleep Well. I'm Linda Ogutu.